Hello and thank you for watching today's video. In today's video, we're going to break down the Victory LX Sport Mobility Scooter base. We're going to break down the base. We are going to break down the dash and handlebar assembly, also known as the tiller assembly, in a later video. But for this video, we're going to break down the base so that you can see what the inside looks like, so you can get an idea of how to replace parts if you need to, or troubleshoot it. This video is intended for technicians. I'm going to go over some of the specs first and leave the brochure on the screen so you can go back to it at any time. This mobility scooter can hold up to 400 pounds. It does have a maximum speed of up to 8.6 miles per hour with a ground clearance of about 2.2 inches at the motor and 3.15 inches at the mid frame. It's known for being one of the best off-road mobility scooters. It's got a very sleek and modern looking design. It's a very sporty scooter and it's very dependable. It comes with a 1-year free in-home service contract. We sell it tax-free. Shipping is free at mobilitydirect.com. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to need to do is remove the seat. I typically fold the seat and then grab it from the rear and the front on the bottom side and pick straight up without tilting it at all. The next thing is to remove the battery shroud cover. You want to grab from the bottom on each side and pull outwards, because there are some clips towards the bottom on the outsides. You're going to notice it does come with two 50 amp hour batteries. There are two black and white harness connectors that go right into the scooter from the batteries. Just go ahead and pull them out. There's no tab or clip. Just pull it straight out and then unstrap the batteries with the provided strap that goes through the floorboard and the frame. Once you have those loose, you'll want to go ahead and just begin to remove the batteries. We're showing you here how the strap gets integrated into the frame so you know how to reattach it later. You will need to remove it during the disassembly process. These batteries are pretty heavy, so be careful when you're removing them. And to replace these batteries, it's pretty simple. You just need to remove the battery harness connector. There's a positive and a negative on each battery. Just go ahead and use a socket or a wrench, a pair of pliers to just remove that wire harness from the old batteries, and then put the battery harness cables right back onto the new batteries and just reinstall the batteries in the same configuration. It's very easy. To detach the front of the scooter from the rear half of the scooter, I like to put one hand on the seat post and then my other hand will lift the disassembly lever. If you just pull forward on the front half, it kind of comes apart on its own. You'll notice there are two battery connectors on the rear, and those are known as female connectors for power. And on the front half, the two male connectors for the power and the data cables to send all the signals from the front half to the rear half all meet right there. It's important to understand how this works. So we're going to go ahead and get ready to start disassembling the rear. You're going to have to pay attention to the 4 screw holes on the top. And I just want to show you a couple of things here up close so you understand what's going on. You may not need to take off the plastic body covers, but there are 2 clips, one for each light, and there's another harness that's for the electromagnetic braking system. So be very careful that you know what you're disconnecting. And then if you need to remove the plastic paneling, just unscrew the 4 screws on top of the rear first to expose the 2 additional screws that are holding the shroud cover towards the frame. So we went ahead and removed that plastic piece. You can see the 2 screws there on top of the bar, which we'll get started on in a second. I also want to point out that there's 2 screws in the rear you will need to take out as well. But we'll go ahead and get started with the 2 that go right through the round frame that just extends over the back part of the scooter. Make sure that you keep your screws organized and you know exactly where each screw goes. That's a very important part of the disassembly and the rebuild process. So we're taking out the 2 rear screws in the back now. And after that, the entire shroud cover, the plastic body panel in the back, should come right off. You can remove the little yellow lever plastic piece. We chose not to when we took it apart, but when we put it back together, we did. And we'll show you that later. So we just disconnected the lights. There's a very straightforward clip for each of the lights. And if you take a look at the configuration of the rear assembly, you'll see that there are a set of bolts that hold the motor in place. The motor does have an electric brake assembly, an electromagnetic brake assembly attached to it with a lever. That's the yellow lever. You can disconnect that harness and you're going to have problems, your scooter won't work. So make sure if you disconnect that by mistake, you check to make sure it's reconnected so that electromagnetic braking system is enabled. Your scooter won't work unless the electromagnetic brakes are engaged. So that yellow lever needs to be in the drive mode. Otherwise, your scooter won't work. So we're just showing you here the next set of screws that you need to remove are going to be the first step in removing the floorboard from the front half. So we're taking out those 2 screws. Just want to point out everything here is basically just a Phillips head screwdriver screw tip. So you can use a Phillips head screwdriver or a drill to remove basically all the screws we're removing in this entire video. So now that those 2 front screws where the batteries sit into have been removed, we're going to go ahead and tilt the scooter over, and we're going to remove 4 screws from the bottom part of the frame. Starting with the rear, we're going to go ahead and remove the top one first. Then we're going to move over to the front one and just go ahead and remove the other 2 as well. Make sure you keep your screws organized so you know where they go when you're ready to put the scooter back together again. Next, what we're going to do is remove 2 screws from the underside of the front part of the scooter. Pay close attention. That screw that I took out goes right through the frame, the round part of the frame. And there's one on the reciprocating end of the left side of the scooter in the front going through the frame as well. That's going to be another long screw. Make sure you keep that organized and handy for the rebuild. Now we're going to remove 2 shorter screws from the front of the frame. That's going to be used to hold that little blue panel in the front, the little trim in the front, and we'll show you how to remove that here in just a moment. Next, we are removing some screws that hold the back 2 body plates together that keep the battery kind of flush against the back part of the frame there. So there's going to be 2 screws, one on each side of the seat post. It's kind of hard to see, but you'll see the only 2 screws resting on top of those plastic panels that the batteries sit up against. And there are 2 extra screws on each side of those back plates as well. Once you have those 4 screws removed from those back plates with all the stickers on them, you can just pick them straight up, and that's going to allow your floorboard in the back to come out. There are a few more screws we're going to have to remove, but we're almost there. So the next thing we need to do is unclip that front shroud cover that's blue to expose 2 hidden screws underneath that blue panel that we just took out. That blue panel has a set of tabs on it that slip right into those little slots next to the drill that you see there, and we'll show you how to do that next. The next step is to remove the 2 screws from the front little plastic piece that holds the light kit on the front of the scooter. Make sure you take those out and carefully put them to the side. Now we're just removing the battery strap completely. Pay close attention to how it goes in so that you know how to put it back on later. At this point, the entire floorboard has been removed successfully. And we're just going to show you here how everything works. You can see the battery connection block there in the middle, and a lot of the power is going straight into the S-Drive controller, which is then distributing data and power to the different components of the entire system. Keep in mind, this is a 24-volt system, and to troubleshoot this now, you should have a way better idea of how it all works, and you should be able to trace all the wires to the different components to replace components or troubleshoot this mobility scooter. At this point, we're just rebuilding now, and we're going to fast forward a little bit here, but essentially, if you have all of your hardware organized and you know where everything goes, it should be a breeze. Just go ahead and reinstall that floorboard, get the strap through the frame so that it's nice and secure. What we're doing first is reinstalling that little plastic piece that holds the LED lighting in the front together, and it just takes the 2 screws. Just go ahead and screw those in. We're removing the basket to make it easier to show you those hidden screws and how to reinstall that blue panel, which we had to remove earlier. Again, it just has 2 tabs on the front which go into those holes on the front, so it's pretty easy. We're going to show you that in just a sec. We're just skipping on over to the back 2 plates for the battery cradle section. You'll want to slide those in, and they kind of just sink right into the side where that yellow reflector is. There's a little notch for those side panels to slide right into, and then you're just going to want to install the 4 screws. There's 2 on the sides and 2 on the top for each of the 2 back plates for the batteries. Once you have those 4 screws in, the batteries will be ready to be reinstalled. Just go ahead and reinstall the 2 screws on the bottom where the batteries sit. We're going to go ahead and tilt the scooter over first before we install the batteries because they are heavy, and drive those 4 screws towards the bottom, the main 4 screws that go through the main parts of the frame. So just go ahead and reinstall those 4 screws. Be careful not to strip anything. They are prone to stripping. And here we're installing that front blue plate finally. So go ahead and just grab those 2 tabs first, slide them into the holes, and then you may need to reclip the bottom part underneath. It might help to do that first and then install the tabs. Make sure that bottom clip lines up because you will need to install the 2 screws for that blue part. First, we're installing the 2 long screws in the front section. There's a total of 4 screws in the front section underneath. The 2 long ones, which we're doing the first one now, it goes right through the round part of the frame there, and it goes into the underside of the front body panels to keep it secure. So get those 2 done first, or if you want to get these 2 done first, it doesn't matter. You just got to do all 4 of them in the front. Just secure those screws now like you see here for that front blue panel that we just installed, and then tilt the scooter over. At this point, all of the screws from the underneath side are done, so you can tip it over and keep it upright. To install the back panel again, we're just going to make sure that those 2 brake lights are installed. They are brake lights and turn signal lights, so there's going to be a clip. You'll want to go ahead and get that connected and then kind of slide the body panel over that yellow brake lever. If it's too difficult, you can remove that yellow piece, the little rubber grip. Makes it a lot easier. So just make sure you line up the screw holes in the rear. We recommend doing those first. Once you have those in, you can go ahead and put it upright and start working on the 4 screws on top. Now, what you're going to want to do first is install the screws that go through the frame, and you'll hopefully have your screws organized so you know which ones those are. They're all very, very similar. So just get those 2 in the middle first. And what we just did is reinstall that rubber grip for the electromagnetic braking system. And then we're just going to go ahead and proceed to install the other 4 screws that hold that horseshoe-shaped plastic panel over the frame assembly there in the rear. To reconnect the scooter, you want to find those green indicator stickers that match the 2 hooks up with the bar in the back, and just drop them into place. You might need to push a little bit because it is a heavy-duty frame to hear it click into place. At this point, the scooter is rebuilt, and we have the batteries just going right back into place. We're just going to reconnect those black and white harness connectors to give power to the mobility scooter, and we're almost at the finish line at this point. When reinstalling your batteries, make sure that those harness cables are out of the way and far away from the seat post, and use the strap to its advantage to keep everything as low as possible, meaning the wire harnesses should not be spring loaded up or pushing up against the plastic battery cover, or else it won't go down and it won't click into place. So just make sure that the battery harness cables are kind of laid out in the way you see here, so that the battery strap's really pushing down on them and keeping them as low as possible, so that that blue battery cover, which we're installing now, can fall into place perfectly. There's 2 little tabs on the front and 2 holes on the floorboard that you'll want to line up, and then just push it down. Lastly, grab the seat and install the seat. There's nothing to it, and we're all done here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this video has been helpful. Please don't forget to like it, leave a question in the comment section below, and subscribe to our channel if you like this video and you want to get notified when new ones come out just like it. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.